let's start the day one of your NA2I security. So first of all, I shall be discussing about the device management basically. Okay, so let's start with the topic. Just hold on. Yes. Okay. So the first thing that we need to discuss is about the planes. Okay. So planes is something you can say that data type, or what type of traffic it is, what type of data it is. Okay. So when I talk about the planes on the appliances like Cisco router, Cisco switches, or NGFW, Cisco ICE, basically on all the network appliances, we are dealing with the three types of planes, or you can say the three types of traffic. The first one is the control plane traffic. So the control plane traffic is something which is generated by a machine for another machine. Okay, let me just repeat again. The control plane traffic is that traffic which is generated by a machine to another machine. Then we have something called management plane. So management plane is something, the traffic which is generated by a user for the machine. Okay, I'll explain you with an example. The last type of traffic, or you can say the plane we have, is data plane. The data plane means a traffic which is generated by a user to another user or to the server. So if a data has been generated by a user to another user or to a server, it is known as data plane traffic. So let me just give you an example about the three types of data that we are going to discuss, and all of our security actually revolves around securing the data plane, securing the management plane, or securing the control plane traffic. Okay, so to understand all these planes or the type of traffic, let me just draw a scenario. Let's suppose I'm having a router R1. R1 is further connected with R2. Then I'm having a switch 1. Switch 1 is further connected with PC1 and PC2. Same goes for R2. R2 is connected with switch 2. Switch 2 is further connected with another PC, which is PC3. Now let me just take the network. Let's suppose the PC1 is configured with the IP address 10.1/8, 10.2/8. The router's interface has been configured with 10.3/8. Next, the R1 interface, the another interface of R1, which is connected to R2, is configured with 20.1/8. R2 is configured with 20.2/8. The another interface of the R2 is configured with 30.3/8. And the PC3 is configured with 30.1/8. Okay. So basically, how many networks are there in this particular topology? So there are three networks. The first one is the network of 10. The another network is network of 20. And the third network is network of 30. Okay. Now let's suppose that the user, okay, this user want to send any kind of message, okay, to the user at PC3. Fine. So they actually want to communicate with each other. Now, what are the prerequisites that you have to configure on all the network appliances? So let's go one by one. First of all, obviously the IP address must be configured. Then let's talk about the PC. On the PC, there should be an IP and there should be a default gateway on all the PCs. Then let's come to the switch. Let's suppose the switch are configured as layer 2 switch. That means you does not have to perform any configuration. All the ports of the switches are working in the same VLAN. Okay, let's suppose the default VLAN, which is VLAN 1. Now, the third thing is router. What configuration will be required on the router? Right now for router R1, the network of 10 and the network of 20 is directly connected. The router R1 does not know about the network of 30. Same goes for the R2. R2 is only aware of its directly connected network, but it does not know about the network of 10, right? So what do we have to do? We have to run a routing protocol over the routers, okay? So the routing protocol could be anyone. It can be RIP, it can be EIGRP, it can be OSPF, or it can be a static routing protocol. Fine. Rest, let's suppose this user is trying to send the ping. Okay, it just what is that this user, let's suppose the user name is let's suppose that it's Mon and the other one is Jack. Okay, so let's suppose the Mon want to send the ping. Basically, it wants to send any kind of data to Jack. So now, first of all, your PC1 is going to generate the data. Your PC1 will generate the data, the user data. The user, let's suppose the user has sent a hi message. Then on the data, the source IP will be 10.1. There will be destination IP that is 30.1. There will be a source MAC. Let's suppose the MAC address of the PC1 is A. But what about the destination MAC address? Will the PC1 aware of the destination MAC address? No. So it will generate an ARP request. So ARP request will be generated by PC1 to PC2. PC2 will revert back with an ARP reply, right? So you can see, to make the communication happen between two particular machines, there are many kind of data which is flowing over the networks, okay? So when I talk about the routing protocols, let's suppose I have configured EIGRP protocols over the routers. So obviously the EIGRP protocol first of all will send the hello message to each other. Then in the hello message, they will check the parameters. Then there will be neighborship formation. Once the neighborship is formed, then they will share their routing table with each other, right? So you can see the R1 has sent the hello message to the router R2. Similarly, R2 has sent the hello message to the router R1. So any traffic which is generated by a machine to another machines, okay, this is something called control plane traffic, okay? So here the EIGRP traffic, or you can say the OSPF traffic, or you can say the ARP request, you can say ARP reply. These are all the traffic which is generated by the machine, not the user. And this traffic has been generated by the machine to the another machine, right? So this traffic can be termed as control plane traffic. Fine. Now, let's suppose that I want to run EIGRP protocol on router as an administrator. Let's suppose this is the administrator, okay? That's the admin. And admin would like to configure EIGRP protocol on the router. So what it can do? Either it can take the physical access of the router. The physical access means the console access, right? Or else it can take the remote access. When I talk about the remote access, it means either it can take the telnet of router or SSH. So now the user will generate, here is the user, the admin will generate a data for the telnet request to the machine, right? So any traffic which is generated by the user to the machine, that is something called management plane, okay? So telnet, SSH, these can be termed, or these are well suited to describe them as the management plane. Talking about the user plane, data planes means any ping message, any message that has been generated by the user 1 to user 2. That is something called the data plane. Fine. So I hope everyone is aware that basically as a network security engineer, you are going to secure 3 types of traffic. The first one is the control plane, any traffic which is flowing in between two particular machines. If a traffic has been generated by a machine to another machine, you have to secure them as a network security engineer, okay? It can be a routing protocol. It can be a spanning tree protocol. It can be a BPDU. It can be ARP request. It can be any kind of packet which only two machines understand. Then when I talk about the management plane means any traffic generated by the user for the machine. Yes, as a network security engineer, you have to make sure that if any administrator is trying to take the access of any of your appliance in your network, it must be secure. Then finally, as a network security engineer, that is a primary job to make sure any traffic which is flowing in between two user or between user to server, it must be secured. So that's what you have to do as a security engineer. You have to secure them. And throughout this journey of 4 to 5 months, okay, we will be covering all the topics which can help you to secure these 3 types of traffic. Okay, so let me first of all start with the management plane traffic. So okay, any queries till this point? Please let me know. I would request everyone, if you are facing any queries, if you have any queries, please do let me know, okay, proactively. You do not have to raise your hand. You can just turn on your mic and you can just put your query. Yes, Mr. Shiraz. Yes, please, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to know about the in L2 switches or any L3 switches.
Sir, sometimes, on the L2, sir, yes, on the L2 switches, sir, the ARP is there, the BPDU are there, the spanning tree protocol are there. The Ether channels are there, the LACP, the CDP, there are multiple protocols, right?
Yeah, no, I'm asking about something else. Like as per the CIS benchmark, normally in my profession, we were asked to disable the unnecessary services, like service pad, no, all this, no service pad, no IP domain lookup, like these kind of services. Yes. So are these coming in the management plane, control plane, where you are putting this data?
Sir, sir, right now, sir, let me tell you, sir, right now you are talking about designing the security policies for a company. Okay. Okay. Yes. Let me just give you a
No. My concern is that if suppose any switch where they are not following this CIS benchmark and these services are running, so are they generating any kind of traffic?
Yes, absolutely. So let's suppose that. Okay, let me just give you. Are you, sir? Are you aware of the spanning tree protocol?
Yes, sir, I'm aware.
Yes, of that. Sir. We often says that the BPDU message which is generated by the switch, it should never be sent to any user, right? To any switch port which is connected to the endpoint. So for what I can do, I can configure BPDU filter, right?
Yes,
so now as a network engineer, I have to decide whether it's a control plane traffic or the management plane traffic or the data plane, right?
Yes.
That's it. That is it.
So that's that's what I want to know. Suppose we enable on a access port as spanning tree BPDU filter.
Yes.
So if suppose in any of the switch that is not enabled, just a port is configured as a switch port access and is assigned to a VLAN.
Yes.
And there is no this command spanning tree BPDU filter. So it will generate. So it will generate BPDU. Spanning
absolutely.
Tree. So what kind of what category of the traffic you will put this spanning tree?
Sir, on the spanning tree, that's what I'm saying. Let's see. If you talk about the spanning tree protocol, can you put it into the control plane traffic? That's a control plane traffic, right?
Yeah, it's a control
because the spanning tree protocol is actually for the communication between the two switches. We cannot call it management traffic. We cannot call it data plane traffic, right, sir? So if you are designing the policies for the company as a CISP or the CI or as a CISO or as a CTO, whatever it is, okay. So you have, so basically there will be 3 aspects to secure them. That is what we are discussing.
Okay, I got it.
Now, as a security engineer, if you know about this concept that yes, I have to secure the control plane traffic too. So now, as a security engineer or as a consultant, you can tell them, please just put the BPDU filter over the switch port, which is connected to the endpoint. It's as simple as that. Okay.
Okay.
I hope it is clear, sir.
Yeah, clear. So one second thing about the management plane, plane. So just my question is that suppose we create a management VLAN on a switch, for the management of the switches, remote access of the switches, we put a separate VLAN on the switch. and we create a
Absolutely.
interface VLAN, SVI, on the switch.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
is coming under management plane or a data plane?
No, that's coming under the management plane only, because you are actually, because the user would like to get an access of the machine, right?
Yeah, we are
So
using
that data has been generated by a user to access that machine. So that falls under the management plane only.
Okay, thank you.
Now, for the management plane, you have 4 protocols: Telnet, SSH, HTTP, and HTTPS, right?
Yes.
So we will learn how to secure them. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, shall I go ahead and any more queries? Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. So this is all about the 3 types of traffic that we are going to discuss in this complete journey. Now let's talk about the Telnet protocol specifically. So if you talk about the management plane over the device, okay, on the network devices, let's suppose if I'm having a router, okay, and if I want to access this particular router as an admin, what I can do? We know that every appliance is going to have a console port, and with that console port, you can take the access of that machine. Now, this is something known as physical access of the device, right? Using the console port of that appliance. Now, let's suppose that you are not directly connected. Let's suppose there is a switch and then there is a PC and this is the admin. So this admin is not directly connected with the router, and still this admin wants to get the access of router. It would like to perform some configuration. Okay. So the second aspect is the remote access of an appliance. Now, when I talk about the remote access of any appliance, there are basically 4 protocols. The first one is Telnet, or you can configure SSH protocol, or you can take HTTP, or you can take HTTPS access of that machine, right? So when I talk about, in this session, we are going to discuss how to secure the communication using the Telnet protocol. If you are taking the remote session of an appliance, how you can secure the communication, okay? So let's go about the Telnet protocol. So Telnet protocol is something which is used to take the remote access of any appliance. It works on the TCP, okay, TCP IP model, and it has the port number of 23. So how does the communication happens? This is my router, that's my PC, and this administrator would like to get the Telnet, or you can say the remote access of the router. The first of all, it will send a synchronized message. Then the router will revert back with the synchronized plus acknowledgement message. And then finally, the PC will send an acknowledgement message once the 3-way handshake is completed. Okay. Once the TCP connection has been established, the router will make a connection with that remote machine who would like to get the access, right? Now, so my first question is to all of you, okay? Just guys, can you please tell me if the Telnet protocol on a Cisco router, is it enabled by default or you have to enable it? I would highly appreciate your proactive answers. My question is
enable.
It is enabled.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
It is enabled. Okay. So the question is again whether the Telnet protocol is enabled by default on a Cisco router or you have to enable it manually. So one of the friends says, is it Uday? Is it you?
No, okay, this is Benedict. It's not enable. You have to go in there and enable it yourself.
You have to enable it. Okay. So yes. Again, we have different answers. Few people say that it is by default enable on the Cisco routers. Few says that it is not enable. We have to configure it manually. Okay. So let me just take you to my lab. Okay. So let's discuss it with the lab, along with the practical too. And since it's a basic lab, I hope everyone is aware of the Telnet protocol. So I'm not going to discuss much theory about it. If you do not know any aspect, just please be proactive and raise your queries. Let me just share my screen. I hope everyone is able to see the EVNG platform.
Yes.
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 Okay, the machine is powered off. Just meanwhile, the E platform will come up. Let me use the GNS platform. So new blank project. Okay. Those who are not aware of using the GNS or the E, do not worry. We will have a separate session how to use them. So 7200. Let me take a router. 7200. So I'm gonna have R1. R1 will be the telnet server or the device whom we would like to get the access, and R2 will be the endpoint. You can just imagine this device as the endpoint device. Let me just change the symbol in quick. Where is the PC? It is. So let me just change the symbol. Now let me just take the access of router R1. Here it is. Move to the interfaces. So these are the interfaces. Again, this is router R2. I have only changed the image of this device. So right now I'm having the access of R1. Okay. So let me just configure the IP address quickly on the interface of my router. That is interface F0/0, no shutdown, IP address 10.0.0.1 to 55.0.0.0. Okay. So let me just verify if the IP address have been configured. Do show IP interface brief, pipe exclude unassigned. So you can see on the router R1, we have configured this IP address. Okay. Now, since you guys says that most of you say that the telnet protocol is by default enabled. Now, first of all, let's go through what are the commands to configure a telnet protocol on the router. What are the commands? The command is configure line VTY, then 0, the login. Anything else?
You have to configure a password.
Login local.
Login local.
I think
Create
I have
a
configured
local
the line
username
telnet
password.
protocol. Okay, let me just configure the password 123. Then login. Is it fine now? Is the telnet has been configured? Okay, so these are the basically the three basic commands that you can configure on your router to enable the telnet protocol. Now, our question was whether the telnet protocol is by default enabled or disabled. Okay, so let me just move to router R1 and let me just run this quick command. Let me just check the running configuration. Do show run pipe section and line VTY. Okay, so those who are not aware of this, with do show run, you will be able to see all the complete configuration. But with do show run pipe section line VTY, that means I am telling my router to show the running configuration, which involves these two keywords, line VTY. Okay. So guys, you can see the line VTY 0 to 4 is already being configured. The login is already being configured on my router. Now, is the telnet protocol by default enabled? Is it yes or no?
No.
The exact answer is the telnet protocol is by default enabled on the Cisco router. Okay. Now, the question arises, still, why do we configure these commands on the router? So the answer is you do not need to. Okay. Let me just take you through. Since I have already configured IP address on router R1, let me take the access of R2. Let's configure the IP address and let's see if R2 is able to take the telnet of R1 or not? Are you all
Prashant,
able to hear my? Yes, am I audible to all of
yeah, Prashant, Uday here.
you?
So in between, I can see your voice is getting breaked. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's only me or even the rest of the folks are facing.
Even I faced the same issue, but it was just for a second or so, so I didn't.
Okay, I'm really sorry. It might be just due to the internet lag. My internet is lagging from the beginning of this day. I'm really sorry. I apologize. I'll fix it, please. Okay. So right now, I just said that on R1, I have already configured the IP address, and on R2, I will consider it as my end user or my end device. So host name, let's configure it as PC. On router R2, let me configure IP address. Interface F0/0, no IP address, 10.0.0.2, 255.0.0.0. So do show IP interface brief, pipe exclude undersigned. So you can see the IP address have been configured on router R2, which I'm using as my endpoint. Okay. And let me just take the access of R1 too. Let us just keep them. Okay. So here it is. It is my R1. It is my R2. So let me just check the connectivity between both the machines. Do ping 10.0.0.1. R2 is configured with 10.2. R1 is configured with 10.1. So do ping 10.0.0.1. And you can see the ping is successful. That means both the machines are able to communicate with each other. Now, from PC, let me try to take the telnet. Do telnet 10.0.0.1. So it says trying 10.0.0.1 open. I hope everyone is able to see. That means R1 says that the telnet connection is open on me. The telnet protocol is configured on me, but still password is required and the connection is closed by 10.0.1. Now, what does it mean? Now, these logs says that router R1 is configured with the telnet protocol. You can see this statement, trying 10.0.0.1, and it says the connection is here. It says the connection is open. Okay, but it says the password required, but none set. It says there is some misconfiguration or there is some command which is not running on router. That's why the connection has been closed by 10.1. So router has denied the connection due to absence of password. Now the reason is this particular thing is absent on the router. Okay. So what happen is, so whenever any user or any machine will try to take the remote of another machine. So basically this password is absent. Okay. However, the other two commands, line VTY and the login keyword, that is already been running on router R1. You can see, right? The only thing is the password is absent. Now there are two ways. Either I can configure the password on router, okay, to resolve it, which you already know. Or the other thing is, if I remove this command login, then let us check that. Line VTY 0 to 4, no login, okay? No login. To show run pipe section line VTY. You can see currently 9 VTY 0 to 4 has been there, but no login. Now, what do you understand by login? Login keyword means that if the login exists under the line VTY, that means you have told your router or you have told your appliance that if anyone tries to take the remote access, please ask for the password. Okay. So with this command, no login, I have told my router, if anyone tries to take the telnet of yours, okay, please do not ask the password. Now let us check that. Let us move to the topology back and let's check if we are able to access or not. Do telnet 10.0.0.1. Guys, you can see I have got the access. As simple as that. So it's not mandatory to configure these commands on the router. You just have to make sure. Am I audible, everyone?
No,
There's a
Prashant.
little bit
Lost
of
your
break.
voice for a few seconds.
Okay, is it fine now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So all I'm saying is that you do not need to configure these three commands on the router. By default, the telnet protocol is enabled. You just have to make sure which commands are running. If the only line VTY is running and login keyword is there, you can clearly see the password is absent. Either you can configure the password on the machine, or you can just put the command no login, and you will be able to get the access of that machine immediately. Okay. Now there is another thing which might allow the router not to give access, and that command is login. The command is line transport input. Now see these keywords. Line. So basically under line VTY, you will run this command transport input. Okay. So you can see all. All means either you talk about SSH or you talk about telnet. So if you want to enable the remote access of both telnet and SSH, you can configure all. If you want to configure particularly telnet, then you can run this command transport input telnet. If you want to enable SSH only, then you can run this command transport input SSH. Now let's suppose that you do not want anyone to have remote access of your router or your switch. Then what you can do? Simply you can run this command transport input, and there is the keyword none. So if I use this keyword none, that means the configuration of line VTY is like this. Line VTY 0 to 4, no login, transport input none. Now that means that if anyone tries to take the remote access of this router, it will be denied, because on the line VTY, every communication is denied. You can see the input none. And now if I try to take the access from R2 again, it says the connection has been refused by the remote host. Why? Because the transport input none command is configured on the router. Okay. Now can I change it? Yes, you can change it like this. Transport input. Either you can configure all. All means that all the protocols are allowed. Specifically SSH or telnet. If you want to allow only telnet protocol, then you can write telnet. Now try to take the access again. You can see you got the access. So when it comes to the configuration of telnet protocol, so what are the major commands which plays the role? Do, show, run, pipe, section, line VTY. Just include this command too. Okay. So on the paint. So basically these 4 commands are the reason to tell whether the telnet protocol is enabled on the router or not. Just for the clarity, the telnet protocol is by default enabled on all the machines. However, you might not be getting the access due to what reasons? The first reason could be that these 2 commands, let me just name this command number 1, command number 2, command number 3, and command number 4. So if you are not able to get a telnet of any appliance and you have to troubleshoot as an engineer, obviously the ping will be the first thing. You will check whether the communication is there or not. Then what else is there? If the login command is running but no password configure, that will also restrict you for the remote access. Or transport input none command is running, that will also restrict you from the remote access of that particular router. Okay. Okay, guys, again, I'm audible?
Yeah, Prashant, but it is breaking in between.
Okay, I do understand. So I do. I really apologize. I'll fix it tomorrow. Definitely, you'll not be facing a similar issue again. However, just from all of you guys, if you have any query from until now, just please let me know. So overall, I just said that the telnet protocol is by default enabled on your router. You just have to check which commands is configured. If the line VTY is present, the login command is present, but there is no password, it will restrict you to take the access. Also, if the transport input none command is running on the router, it will also restrict you from the remote access. That is telnet. Okay. Any queries, guys? Mr. Benedict, Mr. Uday, Jaiprakash ji, Mr. Shiv.
I think it's good. You clarified, so.
Yes.
Nothing so far, Prashant.
I'm good.
Okay. So right now, I just have discussed that yes, telnet protocol is by default enabled on the router. You just have to make sure which commands exist on the router. Okay, and just for the clarity to all of you, that if you are going to purchase a brand new Cisco router, so basically this command, the command number 1, the command number 3, and then the command number 4, you will by default see these commands on the router. Okay. By default, these 3 commands exist. So the telnet protocol is enabled. It just, you have to configure the password, or you just have to configure transport input from none to telnet or SSH. Okay. And what could be the third reason? If you're not getting the remote access, there might be some ACL configured on the router, on the interface of router, which is restricting the access. This we will discuss in the later class. Okay. And that's all for today, since there is some lag from the internet. So I would like to wind up this session here only. And tomorrow I shall continue with this, the securing the remote access of the devices. So now you guys, you can have your queries. If you have rest, you can leave the session. If you would like to have any discussion, then you can stay online and we can have the discussion over it. Tomorrow I shall meet you at the same time, 9:30 p.m. IST. And we'll continue the session right from the here.
Okay. Right.